And now, another episode of the 21st century's #1 global pastime, telling people on the internet they're wrong. Today's business, 4 points where I disagree with Thunderfoot on his responses to Dan Brown's open letter to educators. Thunderfoot made a good case. He found internal contradictions and logical flaws in what Dan said. Not that hard. And he gave us an expanded view of the role of the university beyond simply instructing undergraduates. By and large, I agree with a lot of what Thunderfoot says. But today, I want to talk about places where I don't. And I might let this run more than 4 minutes. A lot of you praised my tone in these videos, contrasting my sweet reasonableness with a much harsher approach taken by Thunderfoot. I have to tell you this, though. My initial reaction when I first saw Dan's open letter to educators was probably as vehemently negative as Thunderfoot's. The only difference, really, is that I had a conversation with Tom Milsom. So if there's any credit for my approach, it goes to Tom. As does the credit for the opening joke in this video, which I lifted from one of his, link in the doobly-doo. A few folks said that I managed to express what they were thinking when they saw Dan's video. Well, I think that's a pretty neat trick. So for my next trick, I'm going to use this deck of cards, Dan's beloved red-back bicycle cards, to try and predict what some of the other people out there were thinking when they saw Dan's video. Let's see if I can channel it. Oh yeah. Some of you were thinking, he sounds like Glenn Beck. Oh, wait a minute. That's not what you were thinking. That's what Thunderfoot said in both his videos. Dan Brown, you are no Glenn Beck, not even close. For one thing, your blackboard's way too small. I've never seen you cry on camera. You still have your moral compass. I think you're a lot smarter than he is, and you voted for Obama. Okay, there's one aspect of that video where I think Dan might have been just a wee bit Beckish, and that's in his oversimplified, tendentious telling of history. It kind of reminded me of what one of my favorite teachers was always telling me. You know, it's not so much that you don't know anything, it's that you know so darn much that isn't so. But there's a difference here. With Glenn Beck, that's all he does. That's all he does, and he does it every night. He tells big lies for one simple purpose. He is trying to delegitimize the election of 2008. A man put in the White House by a majority of voters, a Democratic majority put in the Senate and the House by a majority of voters. Glenn Beck wants to nullify that by waving swastikas, telling lies, and crying. He's called Obama a racist who hates white people. He's told his viewers they could be the next victims of the killing spree. And he said, and I'm quoting this, "As long as these people are in control, they are taking you to a place to be slaughtered." So Dan Brown is like Glenn Beck? Come on, Thunderfoot. That statement itself is more Beckish than anything Dan Brown has ever done, and I think you owe Dan an apology and a retraction. Second, I was really put off by Thunderfoot flashing the word dropout under Dan's picture again and again and again throughout both videos, as though the word dropout defines Dan. Yes, he did drop out. But there's something decidedly unkosher about that rhetorical gambit. Someone once explained that to me. Who was that? Oh, it was Thunderfoot. Remember when Thunderfoot pointed out this trick used by Christian evangelists? Have you ever told a lie? Then you are, in essence, a liar. Dirty pool when Christian evangelists do it, dirty pool when Thunderfoot does it. Dropping out is something Dan did, it's not something he is. I don't really get it, Thunderfoot. You had him dead to rights on the logic and the merits. Why go ad hominem? Sounded to me like another page from the Glenn Beck playbook. Don't listen to Obama, he's a racist Nazi commie. Don't listen to Dan Brown, he's a dropout. If I had to put a label under Dan's picture, there's plenty to choose from. I could start with magician or pogoist. I mean, Dan is ambitious, driven, disciplined, engaging, funny. Did I mention modest? No, of course not. Oh, and he's a teacher. He put up not only the most popular, but the best explanation I've ever seen on how to solve a Rubik's Cube. Third point. Thunderfoot is on very firm ground when he talks about the odds of success with and without a degree. But then he takes it to ridiculous and unsupportable extremes, ludicrous extremes, comparing dropping out of school without a diploma to dropping out of an airplane without a parachute. Now, I want to be very careful here because Thunderfoot is correct about the economic value of having a degree. It's been estimated to be anywhere from a couple $100,000 to even $1 million over the course of a lifetime. So all things being equal, stay in school, get your degree. But there are exceptions, and those exceptions aren't randomly distributed. They tend to be people who are hardworking, disciplined, driven, and goal-oriented. People like Dan. These people aren't so much dropping out as dropping into something new. I'm very impressed with what Dan has accomplished in his first 19 years. Don't know him, but based on what I've seen on YouTube, I think the odds are good for his accomplishing even more, with or without a degree. But kids, don't try this at home. Dan is a professional driver driving on a closed course. Fourth and final point, income from YouTube. Felt a little like you were going the concern troll route when you talked about YouTube, all with Dan's best interest at heart. I think Thunderfoot painted an overly grim picture of the precariousness of relying on YouTube for an income, a career, or a career launching point. Yes, the odds do not favor success, but success is not randomly distributed. First rule of Showbiz Club, asses on seats. Second rule of Showbiz Club, there are no other rules. If you can draw a crowd, you can have a career. And Dan has proven he can draw a crowd. Not only that, he's endlessly ingenious about what to do with that crowd, how to expand it, engage it, and get them more involved. Thunderfoot also overstates the threat of the big guys coming in, throwing money at the problem, and stealing the audience from the vloggers, or the yammerers as he calls us. Psst, the big guys are already here and people are still watching us. They're taking time away from watching sitcoms and movies and game shows and music videos to watch yammerers. Oh, and by the way, when the big guys want to throw more money at the problem, who's to say they won't throw some of it Dan's way? Thunderfoot's careful and painful elaboration of all the possible risk factors involved in YouTube reads very much like a document put out by a company that wants to sell shares to the public. They have to list everything that could go wrong, every possible way they could fail. But you know what? If there weren't people willing to take risks, we wouldn't have YouTube, or Google, or Amazon, or Apple, or Microsoft, or Fire, and we wouldn't be eating tomatoes. Look, it's good to talk about the risks of running away and joining the circus, but I like to watch the circus. For those who chortle when they hear me say it, I'll see you at the Piggly Wiggly. Until next time, I'm Mickeleh.